Welcome back to the deep dive. So, if you've been online at all lately, or just talking to people, you've definitely heard the buzz around generative AI. It feels like it's everywhere, doesn't it? And it's not just some tech trend. It really seems to be changing how we create things, how we innovate. So today, we're doing a deep dive. Our mission, to really unpack what generative AI actually is, how these, well, frankly, amazing systems work their magic. We'll look at some surprising ways it's being used, things you might not expect, and importantly, how you can maybe start learning about it, maybe even find a career path here. But also, we need to touch on the challenges, the tricky parts. Okay, so at its heart, generative AI, it's this really advanced type of AI, right? Designed specifically to make new stuff, original content. We're talking text, images, music, code, you name it. It's not just analyzing data that's already there. It learns these deep patterns from huge amounts of information, and then it synthesizes totally new examples. It's like reusing what it knows to tackle new problems.
Almost like an artist learning painting styles, not by copying, but by understanding the techniques, the colors, and then making something completely fresh.
Yeah, exactly. And how it does that creation is, I think, where things get really interesting. There are some pretty ingenious model architectures involved. So take generative adversarial networks, GANs, for example. Picture this. You've got two parts, two networks. One is the generator. Think of it like an art forger, always trying to make better fakes. The other is the discriminator, like an art expert, always trying to spot those fakes. They're basically in this constant competition, this adversarial game.
Ah, okay. So the generator keeps getting better because the discriminator keeps calling it out until the fakes are almost perfect.
Precisely. And that intense competition pushes the generator to create incredibly realistic results. Art, synthetic data for training other AIs, all sorts of things, though training them can sometimes be a bit unstable. And then moving on, you've got transformers. The really big innovation there is something called the self-attention mechanism. It sounds technical, but basically it lets the model weigh the importance of different words in a sequence all at once, in parallel. It understands context much better.
So it's not just reading word by word, it's seeing the connections across a whole paragraph instantly.
Exactly, like highlighting the key concepts immediately. This was the breakthrough that, well, enabled these massive large language models, LLMs, that everyone's talking about. It completely changed the game for things like text generation, translation, and even, AI that works across different types of data, like DLE making images from text descriptions. And speaking of images, if you want really top-tier photorealistic visuals, you're probably looking at diffusion models. These are kind of the state-of-the-art right now, powering tools like DLE, Midjourney, Stable Diffusion. The core idea is learning to reverse a noise adding process. Imagine starting with pure static and gradually refining it step by step into a crystal clear image. It's pretty amazing stuff.
Okay, wow. So these models are creating art, writing code, making music. Where are we actually seeing the impact? Like out in the real world? It sounds genuinely transformative.
Oh, it absolutely is. It's acting as this powerful catalyst for innovation across so many sectors. Think about marketing and advertising. People are using it to generate ad copy, personalized email campaigns, even visuals. You saw Heinz using DALL-E for ads, right?
Yeah, I remember seeing that. Wild.
And in healthcare, it's doing things like speeding up drug discovery, generating potential molecular structures, or helping analyze medical images, maybe spotting things earlier. Processes that took ages are getting faster.
And you mentioned gaming. I've heard whispers about AI creating more dynamic game characters. Is that really happening?
That's definitely the goal. For gaming, the idea is AI creating more realistic characters, unique dialogue, maybe even evolving storylines. Tools like NVIDIA ACE are working on that. And of course, software development. Huge impact there. Speeding up coding with tools like GitHub Copilot, helping with debugging, writing documentation. It's changing how developers work.
It really is becoming a sort of creative partner or assistant. So this brings up a big question for anyone listening. Where do you fit into all this? How can someone get involved?
That's a great question. And the good news is there are different levels or personas for getting involved. You could just be a user, right? Experimenting with the tools out there, ChatGPT, Midjourney, DALL-E3, just seeing what they can do. Or maybe you step up to being a super user. This is where you get really good at prompt engineering, crafting those perfect instructions for the AI, and maybe integrating these tools into your work using APIs. Then, if you're more technically inclined, you could be a developer, actually building these generative models, gathering the data they need, fine-tuning them for specific tasks, or even a researcher, someone pushing the envelope, developing new techniques, publishing papers.
Okay, so for those developer or researcher paths, what kind of foundation do you need?
Right. You definitely need some core knowledge. Machine learning fundamentals are key supervised, unsupervised learning, deep learning concepts. The math is important too, linear algebra, some calculus, probability. It underpins how these models work. And programming, of course. Python is basically the standard, along with libraries like NumPy and then the big deep learning frameworks TensorFlow, PyTorch. And tools like Hugging Face transformers are essential now.
So it sounds like you can't just read about it, you have to actually do it. Hands-on learning.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. You've got to get your hands dirty. Try building something, even something simple to start. Build a basic chatbot. Try making an image generator with GANs or stable diffusion. Maybe even generate some simple music patterns. There are tons of great online courses, too. Places like Google, IBM, deeplearning.ai have structured paths you can follow.
Okay, so there's huge potential, lots of ways to get involved. But we have to talk about the other side of the coin. The ethical considerations, responsible development. Because with all this power comes, well, significant challenges, right? One huge one is bias and fairness. These models learn from data. And if that data reflects societal biases, the AI can end up perpetuating them or even amplifying them.
Yeah, that's a major concern.
And then there's data privacy. What happens when people feed sensitive personal or company information into these tools? Where does it go? Who sees it? Big questions there. We also need to think about transparency and accountability. Sometimes these models hallucinate. They generate stuff that sounds plausible but is actually wrong or made up, and figuring out why they said something can be really difficult.
That black box problem.
Exactly. And tied to that is the potential for misinformation and misuse. Creating deepfakes, generating fake news articles at scale. It's, frank, quite scary. And finally, there are really complex issues around copyright and academic integrity. If an AI generates an image or a piece of text, who owns it? Especially if it learned from copyrighted material. It's a legal and ethical minefield we're still navigating. So, wrapping up, generative AI is undeniably a profound leap forward. The potential to transform industries, boost creativity, solve complex problems, it's immense. But as you explore it, whether you're just trying out the tools or aiming to build the next generation of models, it's crucial to keep learning, stay curious, and always prioritize these ethical questions. Responsible innovation has to be the focus. So the final thought for you today is this. With this incredible new capability at your fingertips, what new creative frontiers, what new solutions to old problems will you choose to responsibly explore using the power of generative AI?